years after Rome declared its independence, it was at war with the Etruscans, who fought desperately to regain their old possession. They failed. They were no match for the highly disciplined Roman legions who'd fight to the death to defend Rome's liberty. As Roman soldiers fought for the Republic, a man named Publius codified its leading ideas. This legal system set a remarkable precedent for republics of the future. "2,000 years later, when the founding fathers of the United States needed to defend their Constitution, they too wrote under the name of Publius.
I think the American Revolution was an exciting period for the Founding Fathers. They were excited by the opportunity to match their ancient heroes' struggles against tyranny, in a sense to rival the noble deeds they had spent their youth reading about. And they were thrilled by this idea, by this thought, that they were beginning anew the work of the ancient republicans, only this time with an unprecedented chance of success.
Throughout the 5th century BC, the struggle for the Republic went on. Rome and the nearest Etruscan city, Veii, faced each other across the Tiber in an endless stalemate of attack and counterattack. Finally, after decades of bitter skirmishing, a Roman army battled its way toward the Etruscan city. The year was 392 BC. Their goal was to take Veii by storm and once and for all bring to an end the Etruscan threat to Rome's survival. Etruscan soldiers fought furiously at the city walls. Priests prayed to their gods to save them from destruction. To no avail. The Romans smashed through the Etruscan defenses and laid waste to the city. They slaughtered the men and made slaves of the women. It was Rome's first great victory. There would be many more, each celebrated by the building of a triumphal arch, a monument to the glory of victory and the humiliation of the defeated. Rome now piled victory upon victory all across Italy, as one by one her neighbors fell to the legions. Rome's rise was gathering momentum, and by now seemed unstoppable. But she suffered one setback, which haunted the empire forever. The year was 386 BC. From beyond the Alps, horsemen appeared and thundered toward Rome. The Romans called them barbarians. They were Celts from Gaul, present-day France. The Gauls were a warlike people, but this time they weren't looking for battle. Wars with their neighbors had pushed them out of their own territory. Now, they needed a new home. Rome dominated central Italy, so the Gauls asked them for territory. Roman envoys refused point blank. Who did these barbarians think they were to presume upon Rome in this way? They'd insulted the Gauls, which was a mistake. The Gauls descended on Rome in a fury. What they weren't given, they would take. Romans were fierce warriors, but had no idea how to fight these people, who charged into battle in a suicidal frenzy. Their savagery, even by Roman standards, was terrifying. Taken by surprise, the Romans barricaded themselves inside their city and hoped these terrifying wild men would go away. They didn't. The Gauls smashed their way into the city and ransacked it. The Romans only escaped being slaughtered by paying the Gauls everything they had to move on and leave them in peace. Rome's humiliation was complete. The words of the Gallic chieftain as he exacted his crushing payment would ring in Roman ears for centuries to come. Woe to the vanquished. Rome rose from this devastation stronger, better organized, and more determined than ever. It forged an iron spirit and a civilized code of honor, the stoic virtues of valor, discipline, and self-sacrifice. That code produced soldiers and commanders with an unflinching dedication to duty. One of the most famous was Cincinnatus. Cincinnatus was a Roman who came to embody the classic virtues like no other. Although a nobleman, he liked to work his fields with his own hands. One day as he worked, a messenger arrived with news that Rome was being attacked.
And in such an emergency situation as this, the Roman constitution called for the appointment of a dictator, somebody who would be elected by the people, but then once elected, would have absolute power, life and death power over all citizens, but only for a maximum of 6 months.
He dropped his plow, hurried to the city, took up command of the army, and was named dictator. He quickly won a great victory and returned to the city in triumph.
Now he could have stayed on and he could have used his power as he wished. But the very day that he returned to the city, we're told, he immediately resigned the office of dictator, walked back to his farm outside the city, and continued to plow his farm. And the Romans loved to tell that story because here was a man who was totally selfless, who cared nothing for his own livelihood, for his own life, but merely to serve, wished to serve. And so it's no accident that one of the most famous sculptures in American history is that of George Washington as a Cincinnatus.
George Washington knew that many people compared him with Cincinnatus, and he liked that, and he consciously worked to encourage that image. And so, for instance, during the darkest periods of the war, when some thought maybe he should resign, he held off that resignation because he wanted to do like Cincinnatus did, wait until the enemy was defeated, and then in a big show lay down his power, which he did, and he retired to his own plow at Mount Vernon.
Cincinnatus became the role model for the Roman politician commanders Napoleon so admired. He embodied the code of conduct that powered Rome's rise and extended Rome's dominion over the entire Western world. Rome's battles abroad would highlight the conflict within its own soul. The struggle to resist the corrupting influence of so much power. It would haunt the empire for centuries to come. But first, Rome's era of power and glory was about to begin.